Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sloppy Lab. I know what you're wondering, and yes, it is true. We are completely selling out. This is a top five episode, so call our sponsors and quick draw up a contract. Actually, no, I'm not sure that's true. We I think I've done a top five before, so I'm gonna recycle this joke and say that it's more of a sellout subscription than 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 necessarily doing it for the first time here. Um, so
I'm keeping it real sloppy today.
I was kind of like, ooh, can I draw out the intro while Quick Draw gets on?
Yeah, I missed your charming wit this time
Hmm.
around. So I don't know the pun that you gave me
You know what that means?
during that.
+1 to the listen count, baby. When Quick Draw goes
Yeah,
to
I'm
listen,
gonna I'm gonna have to re-listen later. I
right
love it.
on.
So you already talked about everything. Show's over now. We're good. You covered it all.
Time to go home. I'm gonna wrap things up and tell everybody where they can find us.
Sounds great. You stay sloppy, folks.
Stay sloppy. Well, now we got some folks in the chat. We might as well keep going. Hey, DinoBot. Hey, DataForge Stream. Welcome, welcome. We have a fun light show. I think in store for you this evening. Um, yeah. What are we talking about today? Quick draw.
Yeah, so we have a sloppy top five, as you called it. It's definitely gonna be a fun, casual one. So you guys can just sit back and enjoy, and hopefully laugh at some bad jokes that we make. We're gonna have a top five for you guys of skill testing cards. We each have our own list that we have not shared with each other yet. Just kind of some. We want to hit on some things that we think are like really interesting cards with um, difficult decisions to make. Something that the better you are as a player, the more you're going to get out of these cards.
Hmm.
So we have, I think, each some good ideas here to share, and then we'll be introducing a new segment about halfway through the show too.
Yeah, I'm excited for the segment. It should be fun. It'll be
Yeah,
a semi-recurring segment, maybe inspired by play that we encounter throughout the week. So we'll see.
yeah. We'll see how
We'll see.
often we remember it.
Ooh,
It
actually, yeah, go
I
for
was
it.
just gonna say we're on episode 34 here, and our teammate and friend Behawk was like, "You guys have done 33 episodes so far, and you still don't know how to do this right." And he gave us the idea that you should have a recurring segment, do something that comes back every week. And so this is the one that the team came up with, and we think it's a really good one. It kind of ties in with what we're talking about today too, but it'll be the same type of segment every week.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we kind of on that theme. We like keep saying, well, we're gonna get a an intro music and jingle and all that. And hasn't happened yet. It's coming. Dot dot dot. It's coming. Dot dot dot.
Yeah, it'll be there eventually.
We're leveling up though, slowly but surely. I mean, we haven't even filled up a full deck of cards yet. We're still like not at that magic 36, and then even then you've got the Archon card and the Tide or
Right.
the 38th
The
card.
tide, of
So
course. Yeah.
it's we're young. We're young.
The token. Yeah. Well, I would say you're leveling up. I am along for the ride.
I don't know. I don't know. The tide is high. The tide goes out. You can't explain that. I don't know.
Now you get the Blondie song in my head.
I watched that
You
music
haven't heard the?
video, and
Yeah, it's so good. If you're listening and you don't know the Blondie music video for "The Tide Is High," just check it out. It's good times, great song. Very on brand for the DT lovers in the chat. Do we have any DT lovers in the chat today? We'll find
uh,
out.
everyone is at heart. Floxamol, Donabot, Zoc. Oh yeah, plenty of DT lovers, plenty of DT lovers, and more coming. I'm sure, and more coming. Um, yeah.
Do you want to just briefly before we start? It's a pretty big week in online Keyforge leagues. The
Hmm.
NKFL season 20 started, and ABR season 9, I think it is had the draft.
Hmm.
We have a very sloppy team this season, and I think we start like what next week?
Start next week, so it's probably in swing when folks are listening to this, if they're not catching it with us here on the stream. Um, so yeah, it's coming up very quickly. I think next week will be the first official week of like select your decks. I should probably know. but I don't know
You're
if
a
we're
captain, right?
playing next week uh, or not. And I think so. They haven't kicked me out yet. I mean, they could be trolling me, staged an elaborate draft and such, just to keep the ruse going. And I also have I also have the next iteration of the ABR Fantasy League up and coming, and
Nice.
I'll let you know here and the folks here with us now that there's going to be prizes this time around too. So that's exciting.
Ooh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
NKFL has a fantasy league that's back too. They used to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna make any assumptions, but I'm gonna tell you they were inspired by the success of our fantasy league, which was stolen from their ideas in the first place.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think it started over there.
It started over there.
Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so you were chosen by looks like four different people in the fantasy league,
Ooh,
including yours truly.
nice,
I think you were a pretty good value at 4 points. Um,
nice. Oh,
somehow I had four people choose me as well, I think. No, three
nice.
people.
I have not made my team yet, but I intend to. If it's is it still
Oh,
open?
no. You're out. You're out.
Oh,
Nope, it's too late.
dang. It's
Actually, only two people picked me, not three. But for some reason that I cannot explain, I am in just an amazing group of players in Bronze Gamma, and I somehow got the most votes to win the division. So I have a lot of pressure, and in the fantasy league, I am overvalued, I would say.
nice. So you got that big price tag. Big price tag.
I do.
Yeah, yeah. And Floximal has it right in the chat. When you said yours truly, I thought you meant the at yours truly handle, which is a friend of
Uh,
mine, former main player who's moved away. But funny.
we we had some good times a couple seasons ago in ABR with myself, yours truly, and you all on the same team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm
And
not talking about JT Russell. I'm talking about you.
and I think that's why I'm still confused. Yeah.
That was a good team. I
It
think
was a
that
lot
was
of
the
fun.
Brabble Rabble, was it not?
That was the Brabble Rabble. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now we're named after a different disc creature, two-power disc creature.
Good times with the disc creatures, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and there's one other kind of at least league that's top of mind or event that's top of mind is the KFPL season 5, um, and we're kind of sorting out decks amongst ourselves right now. I am going to be honest too. I've been playing a lot with Westfall, the deck that I talked about last week, a ton, and I'm like very tempted to just throw it in there and see how it does. Like I don't believe it's the strongest DT option that we've got. We've got stronger options, but I'm also
Yeah.
like, this is kind of one of those things with these events, right? You're like, you finally get a chance to uh, see how decks hang um, with some of the other actual best decks out there. It's not like you're going on to TCO competitive and we'll see what people bring.
Hmm.
You know, it's more like, and even in a KFPL setting, KFPL and KFL setting, excuse me, it's a little bit different than Archon or Survival, right? There's a lot that you can do with the matchup crafting and your bans and safes to give decks good matchups. And in
Hmm.
something like Survival or just straight up Archon, that goes out the window and it's really just kind of pitting the decks against each other. So it's a different feel, and I'm curious.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Part of me is like, well, should I use this for science or should I use this for I don't know, not science, trying to win.
It depends on how much you want to try hard for this thing.
I'm always trying hard, but to what goal? To what end? Try hard for the
Hmm.
try hard for the insights. Try hard for the wins. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We'll see.
It would be bold to bring Westfall.
Would be
I
bold.
don't hate it. I mean, you're playing it a lot. You're doing really well with it. You're getting some rage quits with it. That's always a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Always a good sign. I want to say it's up around it was up around like 75% with a win rate on TCO.
After like 20 some games,
Yeah, it's close to 30 maybe. I don't know.
it's very good.
So it's good, but a very very wide range, very big mix, and some rematches in there. So the stats are, I don't know. It's hard to know. It's hard to know. So I'm almost
Yeah.
tempted to like see what real run at it with would go, and I could put it in a hex head lineup, and and then plan to always craft matchups for it. And I don't feel like that would be a great test for it in a solo setting. And that's what I'm curious about. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone came here for a top five list. Everyone loves lists, right?
I can
Is that
feel the
still
clicks, the clickbait title. It's
is that
they're
still a thing
pouring
on the
in.
internet? People still like lists.
Still like
Um,
lists.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right. So yeah, we said we are going to have a list top five skill testing cards for each of us. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you have, so there could be some overlap. That might be interesting. I hope there is. I will. I'm just going to give a preface to the whole thing, though. I avoided the easy way out, the easy route here. I could have picked any number of double-sided artifacts, some that we have talked about, some that we haven't,
Yeah.
and I immediately eliminated them. But that is not to say that they are not skill testing cards. They all are. They probably would be in the top five, but I'm kind of just disqualifying those from my list to start. Autoencoder is just one I'm gonna like touch on. We had a whole episode on it, but the fact that there's an artifact that changes every single card in your deck to say either like do what the card does or discard to archive top card of your deck, that decision just like has nearly infinite branches in the game, and every single card you play is a decision to make, which is obviously very skill testing. So I just thought that was a little bit too easy to pick a card like that. So I did not
Mm.
include Curia, Autoencoder, Ulfbert Device, Whirlpool. Those are all like ones that I would have definitely considered, and I took them out of this list. So
Wait.
I will not begrudge you if you use them.
Well, I included one of those, but it's not a double sided artifact. The one that I included.
Eaton's Jar.
Oh, I included Eaton's jar. I did. I will. So spoiler. I included that.
Ah, I ruined it. I didn't even know that.
But one of the artifacts you listed is not double sided. Quick draw. How sloppy are you being? Come on. Come on.
I yeah, the autoencoder's not, but it's still like we
It's
had a
too.
whole episode on it, didn't we? We
It's
had
an
an
easy
episode on
layup.
autoencoder, right?
I think we did. It sounds like one we would have done with Now in Stereo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. Um, so
Now we're going to
yeah,
transition to like I don't know, Battleship or Family Feud style. Like guess my guess the ones that I've got. You got two so far. That's pretty
I
good.
I bet there's one that we have overlap in, and maybe two. We'll see.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I also avoided double-sided artifacts as a point of honor, with the exception of Eden's Jar, um, which I did include. Though I think it's also interesting, and maybe we'll touch on this throughout. Maybe we should do it on the offset. What are some things that uh, uh, criteria, things that you took into consideration when looking for skill testing cards, or what are some common themes? Maybe this will be something we circle back to at the end. However your preference. But yeah, I think the fact that something is not all upside for you, uh, and anytime you have a double-sided card or a symmetric effect, there's going to be one deck that just wants it more, and it's not always going to be clear. And there are often times where you think your deck is a Curia deck, but the other deck might just be a better Curia deck, and you gotta figure that out. Um,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. So I do want to touch on one of the common themes that I thought of going through this before we start, and that is that they're all about decisions. Like you have a lot of cards in this game that don't necessarily have like a decision with it. Like you might have, a vanilla creature, and if you're not up against something like Hysteria or something else that'll bounce, if there's no reason for you to discard the creature, just playing the creature is like it's not really a decision. You play the creature.
mhm,
So I kind of avoided those, but the theme of the cards that I am going to talk about are all about decisions, whether or not to play it or to discard it, how to play it. Sometimes there's decisions that you can make with, like when you actually play it, like how do you play it to take the most advantage of it, and also I think especially decisions that span multiple turns that require setup or
mhm.
that are a preparation for something that's more of a longer term. So like that's the prevailing theme that I noticed in the cards that I was looking at here.
Yeah, those definitely kind of resonate with me. I even jotted down some notes. How unsloppy. So immediately cards that are not all upside give you room for some skill testingness to sneak in, right? So anytime, and we talked about this with double sided cards. Cards that are going to require setup. So there are cards that are not all immediate benefit, essentially, right? So there's that delayed benefit, delayed boon. So things like the ones you mentioned, also like Jargoggle was kind of on the list there, and then there's our potential candidate, which did not include, but a potential candidate. Um, and then there are things like cards that do like resource exchange. So I mean, even just the tide itself is skill testing, but things that interact with the tide and want the tide introduce a skill testing
Hmm.
element. So
Yeah.
we're fond of saying that DT itself, even just by interaction with the tide, introduces a skill testing element and really challenges you to uh, be sharp with your resource management.
Hmm.
To
Yeah,
yeah,
I could have included 5 Dark Tidings cards in this list, but I intentionally went out of my way to find non-DT cards as well. But yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree on the Tide. There's a lot of decisions that can be made in there. In fact, the Tide could probably have its own
Oh, the tide card, skill testing
the Tide
card.
card. Ah, we blew it. Or maybe another time. Actually,
Yep.
yeah, I think the Tide actually could be a good one to revisit in the future.
Hmm.
There's, I think, a lot to be said about that. We digress.
We digress. Cool. So I I have mine arranged fifth through first with an honorable mention.
Hmm.
Um, and I believe you have yours arranged as well, fifth through first with an honorable mention. I'm going to end with my
Correct?
honorable mention because mine is, I think, not well. I think you probably could guess what it is, um,
Hmm.
but I don't
I
think
don't know.
anybody else is going to guess.
Okay, all right, that's a good hint.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think about it. I do want to start with my honorable mention, just because it's it's not really like a big reveal at the end. Like it sounds like yours is going to be extremely exciting, and if it's not, then we'll all be let down. But mine's not going to be like that. So I'm going to talk about mine first. My honorable mention for this list that almost made the cut for me was Final Analysis, and the reason it didn't make the cut for me is just because it's so often a discard. But I do love, like you talked about, the resource exchanges of this. Like it could be
Yeah.
a great card where you are wiping the entire board, but you're also allowing your opponent to draw cards. Sometimes you're drawing cards. I would say it is definitely a skill testing card. It can be played well. I just didn't put it in my top 5 because I feel that usually, I don't know what I don't want. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say over 80% of the time it's a discard.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps people play it when they shouldn't more often. I would say that's fair. And so for that reason, it could fall on this list. So part of maybe the skill testing is, are you sure you want to play that? And usually you don't.
Yeah. Usually don't. Uh, I think for the majority of the decks that I have final analysis in, it's either really like fingers crossed, and I'm hoping to hit a data forge, um,
Hmm.
or I'm hoping to phase shift into a punctuated equilibrium immediately afterwards.
Yep.
um, but the one deck I've mentioned this one before in a previous discussion too, where it's an incredibly important card to the list, and how and when to play it is a big deal. And I do even find myself holding it, which is not something that I say for final analysis very often. And that's in this Evil Twin of Duchess Ventura deck. This deck is very kind of has a very fluid relationship with the Rush to Grind scale. It's one that I think you would probably typically call it like a tempo type of deck. It is a little bit light on creature control. I think the 10 that's advertised here is a very soft 10, and very often needs to make good use of that final analysis to squeak over the finish line. Um, so I don't know. That was what I throw in there. I think
Hmm.
it's a good honorable mention.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get to your honorable mention later. But we
Hmm.
can get into the top 5. The moment that Dinobot has been waiting for.
So excited. Um, I kind of try to hit a couple buckets here, and I will say too that my list was very heavily weighted toward decks that I play competitively. So probably not going to be tons of surprises there. But my 5 is TMTP slash interdimensional graft. So too much to
Mm,
protect slash interdimensional graft.
that is a great one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And
I didn't even cross my radar, but it's a fantastic choice.
yeah, I think it's almost just like Just like an obvious cop out answer, which is probably why it didn't cross your mind. Um, but I think it's notable too because I almost want to say that it gets played too quickly or too often. Like I think some of the skill testingness from this card comes from valuing it as a deterrent. Um, and there's so many games where I've played it and then immediately lost to a gigantic burst afterwards, and yeah, regretted regrets were had.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's
Even,
there's an interesting debate to be had, like how high should you go against a TMTP or a graft in an opposing list. I think Behawk would say go, say he goes even to like 9 or 10, and I know there are decks that Not Tonight plays where she says, if they have it, they have it, but you can't afford the tempo loss by playing around it, so just YOLO. Um, and there are obviously decks where, or maybe not obviously, but there are decks where I play and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try for 6 every time, and that feels like the right call. But skill testing card both to play and play against.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of these cards we're going to talk about are going to fit that mold too. Is like not just how you play it, but also if you see it in your opponent's list, how are you going to handle it? TMTV is a great one for that. I personally usually go to about 9, but it's going to depend on how well I memorize their lists. Because if they have a lot of things that can take you off check at 7 or even 8, I am if they can take you off check at 8, I'm more inclined to go to 9 because with TMTP you're really trying to make sure that you can get your check through. Like you want to
Mm-hmm.
guarantee yourself to forge, and you want to put them in a situation where they're saying, okay, they're at 9 or maybe even 8. They're at 8, say, and I can't take them off on, but I can steal 2 with the TMTP. They might go out of their way to play a Shadows turn just to get a little bit of value out of that. And so, if you can think about how much you are able to pressure and how much they're able to take you off, I think it's a big part of it too. Because if you have like 4 straight turns where you check and they take you off, you're letting them set up for the TMTP. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can really think going into it when you see a team TP, okay, like look at the rest of their list. How much do I have to get to where they cannot take me off check unless they have a TMTP plus something else? Make them burn it if you have to. Try to get to that point is what I think, and just burn through it as fast as you can.
Draw it out. Draw it out. Yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
you got to do it. Rip off the band-aid.
yeah.
Cool. Well, what was your number 5?
My number 5 is actually currently on the screen for the evil twin of Duchess Ventura, and it
Oh,
is a Maelstrom.
nice.
Um, Maelstrom is my number 5. It at first sight is like a great like disruption slash board wipe card. Obviously, it's double sided. You get 2 chains for it, which is pretty steep. But it's a card that you can set yourself up for in advance. If you have some vanilla creatures like an Infomorph kind of waiting in your hand, you may just discard them the turn or 2 before you expect to Maelstrom. And maybe you're telegraphing that, but you're also kind of like making them think twice about something like what's going on over here. But it's something that you can set yourself up for turns in advance. If they have any big play creatures on the board, you don't want those to come back like Infernus. So you
Mm-hmm.
might be more inclined to kill the Infernus before you play that, which maybe will also make them think like, why are they killing my Infernus? Usually it's something you let to sit on the board until they shuffle and then you want to kill it. But with the Maelstrom, you definitely want to get rid of those kind of things first. So you really have to plan yourself a few turns ahead, because if you can pull off a big one and you're facing like a big Sanctum board, for example, and they just have a bunch of knights that just play and don't do anything, you could put all those back on top of their deck mixed in with like, I don't know, like a Flumph or a Cephalotus or Pismire. They have trouble like getting back to their play effects. It really is just a ton of disruption. It has a 2 disruption rating in this deck, um, which is interesting because I don't think any other board wipe has the disruption rating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so to me, this is one that if you play it well, if you play it right, it can have a ton of value. But I will also admit it is a discard pretty often as well.
Yeah, it can be a discard, especially when you compound those chains uh, with the restacking of cards on top of your deck. So
Yeah.
interesting. I think you just really like cards that force you or encourage you to discard everything else. Discard your creatures.
We do that a lot. Yeah. I mean, Whirlpool, you often discard creatures. And I think I've really seen the value with Maelstrom more recently playing a Whirlpool deck with two of them and a lot of capture. And it's definitely the best deck that I've seen with Maelstrom, but it's really made me realize the value of it and how to play with it a little bit better, and try to set yourself up in advance for that. So um, that's my number five.
Cool. And I could note from the chat from Floxmall here that we've got Hysteria coming with some disruption, though not quite as much. So
Yeah.
yeah, good note. Very astute.
Yeah. It does. Is Hysteria, I guess I definitely agree with the disruption, 100%. I guess I would question is, do we count that as a board wipe? Everything that you pitch back is immediately coming back the next turn from a single house. Um, it's a great card. Don't get me wrong. Um, I think against tokens in Winds of Exchange, Hysteria loses a little bit of value.
Mm,
And I don't know if Maelstrom will also lose value with that as well. It might. It's an interesting thought experiment, though.
that is interesting. Okay, cool. I like it. Well, at the risk of shorting a cool line of thought, I'm gonna move us to the next one.
Yeah, no, we got to keep it moving.
Sweet. So I have number four, that may be surprising in its position, but Control the Weak. I put at
Hmm.
number four, and I didn't put it on my list for what folks are probably immediately thinking, which is like, ooh, you really need to be thinking to guess the right house to time walk somebody, and that is certainly an important part of the card. I think that part is probably not as difficult, usually situationally, not as difficult than figuring out the right time in the game to play it. Um, uh, and This card I see very often used, right, can be used for an early tempo boost, right? So if I can time walk you turns 1 through 3, like, is that worth more than a key safe on turns, 6 through 9 plus, right? So there are definitely decks that want to use Control the Weak to safe a key. There are definitely decks that want to use Control the Weak and not hold it and take an early tempo boost to get ahead and use a time walk. And I do see folks kind of leaning into one or the other. Maybe I don't know, incorrectly is the right word, but leaning into like their kind of default mode for Control the Weak, rather than kind of seeing it as a more versatile card. Um, so that's
Yeah,
why it's on my list.
you're choosing some fire in this, and you're not wrong either.
Uh-huh.
Like, Control the Weak, if you have like a big board set up, sometimes you're not really just looking to make them call the house that they have the fewest cards of in their hand or on the board. Maybe you're calling a house that they don't have any creature control in, so like guaranteed next turn you can use your entire board. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, like you said, you're trying to just get a key out of it, and make sure that you're dodging a TMTP or something like that. There's a lot more uses for it than just trying to time walk and trying to make them play a single card and pass the turn and move on. There's definitely more uses for it that you don't see as often, but it's definitely something that if you are looking at lists again at the start of the game, you want to see like where are there gaps in their list, like what houses do not have any amber control or creature control,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of prepare your control of the week for that kind of analysis.
Yeah, I think the misuse of it that I see most often is it getting used for, just to semi time walk mid game, when you look at their list and you're like, wow, if my opponent can call a house of their choosing, I'm just gonna have a really hard time forging key three. Um, uh, Whereas, maybe one of their houses just doesn't have the amber control to stop me from 8 plus, say, right? And just having that to close out the game and give you that sure reach is super valuable. But yeah,
Yeah,
there you have it.
good one. My number four is a nice tiny little creature by the name of Igor.
Awesome. Yeah.
Igor, peek at three cards, take one in the hand, discard the others, and the key to me is the discard the others. You know, you. when my opponent plays an Igor, I always like open their discard pile in anticipation of what they're going to discard, because that to me is the interesting part. Like when you're peeking with the Igor, your instinct is like to find a Logos card just so you can
Mm-hmm.
play it. But sometimes you might be revealing like a really good card from another house that you can't play immediately, but you know you need it, and so you have to weigh that decision of like, do I hold on to something that I'm going to need in a couple turns, or do I just get a Logos card that I can play for value right now?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you end up discarding a Logos card that's a pretty good card, it really makes your opponent think like they probably found a key piece. Like I've seen opponents discard like a wild wormhole with an Igor before, which is like a red flag to me. Like you see a wild wormhole with your Igor, you're probably going to take that. That's pretty sweet. So it could be an indicator that they found a piece that they've been looking for, maybe a piece that is going to be a crucial part. Um, so to me, I like Igor here. It's a little interesting decision. And it's the long term part of it is you could find a card that you need from a different house. Um, Not really preparation as much, but more of the longer term stuff. So, um, you know, possibly pitching Logos for something you've been digging for all game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. This is one that I considered putting on my list. Didn't end up making it, but it was really close. It was really close. An honorable mention. Not my honorable mention, which is really really spicy and no one's going to see coming, but a contender for the slot. I do definitely have those hands where, or those Igor spreads. I have Baron Nguyen pulled up here, which has triple Igor, uh, and you very often. Play Igor and then see Igor plus, say, the mimicry, and you're like, ooh, it feels so good to just play another Igor immediately and see new cards. But you got to be like, I don't know. You really have to have that strategic vision, and I don't know, resist the urge to just keep zooming.
Yeah. One thing that I believe is the case in TCO that this list that you're showing reminds me of is that
Mm.
Igor and TCO does not let you choose the order of the cards you discard, correct?
It does not. It does not. And I've always wondered if you're supposed to be able to, because I will have opponents, and I've considered doing this myself, but be like, hey, I'm going to put this card on top, if it doesn't happen naturally. I think the wording is unclear, but um, there probably is a an official ruling on this. Maybe somebody in the chat can help us out if they know. But the question, of course, is you with Igor, you play and then look at the top three cards of your deck, add one to your hand, and discard the others. You may want to order the cards that are discarded, so those two that are discarded, for things like ZYX Researcher, which is also in this deck, that
Yep.
allows you to archive the top card of your discard. So you may care an awful lot. In fact, you may even want to pass on that important card to get it in your discard in the top slot, so that you
Yep.
can archive it with Researcher. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would telegraph it, but still, at least you know that you have the piece that you're looking for. And sometimes, like you were talking about with TMTP, that threat and that is a deterrent enough. So if you tell them like, hey, just I've got my TMTP right here. Don't do anything funny. You know.
Yep,
Um,
totally,
yeah.
totally.
So I like Igor. Great card.
Yeah, and I think I am. I don't know if this is something you worry about. I'm usually trying to ensure that Igor is not the last Logos card that I intend to play from my opening hand, or from my starting position. Um,
So you don't telegraph the card that you
right.
take.
So if I take a
Yeah.
non-Logos card, I can follow with a Logos card, and hopefully my opponent's like, oh, huh, they took Seismo Entangler, or instead of
Yeah.
the Archimedes or something. That's funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hmm.
All
Well,
right.
okay, cool.
Get into the top three now.
It's a good one. So my number three, coming in at number three, and this hits on kind of the idea of trading resources, trading one resource for another. I've got Gateway to Dis, and I'm also lumping in Coward's End into that bucket. Um, I probably have more copies of Gateway to Dis among the ones that I play, or the Coward's Ends that I play, are more clear cut. But I've spectated an awful lot of Not Tonight's games and know that Coward's End can be an incredibly skill testing card, and is one that like she's often weighing that balance on, because often those chains are not insignificant, And not only that, but for Coward's End, you have the added consideration of managing the damage on your creatures and the damage on their creatures leading up to it. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, great minds think alike because I have Coward's End as my number three as well.
Let's go. Survey
We nailed it.
says. Yeah.
And I also thought of watching Not Tonight play with Rector and other decks like that, and setting up your damage across your creatures that you want to survive. It's something that takes a few turns of preparation for sometimes. Sometimes it's just a wipe, and that's fine. That's a great card. But other times you can really turn it into a near one-sided wipe. And when you can combine that with the Gangernaut, it really can take Gangernaut to another level if you're doing this correctly. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely agree on that one. And the Gateway to Dis is no slouch either. I have a Curia deck that I got recently where I will hold Gateway like almost the entire game because it's pretty limited on its creature control. And so I think holding a card like that that's so game changing
Mm-hmm.
is a very skill testing part of it. And so Coward's End and Gateway to Dis both fall into that same category.
Yeah, totally. And you do feel the chains, especially the deck that I'm thinking of, Yarusha, has no efficiency, but it has these wipes, gateways, um, and you feel the impact of those chains. So you kind of want to be setting yourself up, I would imagine, to play gateway, use a board, and then immediately deploy a board that you're gonna go back to and shed some chains, because it can really really hurt you in a deck that does not have, especially decks that don't have any efficiency to
Hmm.
to burn one of these board wipes. Okay, you dig yourself out of a hole, but now you're in a position where you're struggling to establish a board while shedding chains, and it can be a tough spot to be put in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good choices though.
yeah, but I think with you on the Coward's End, I think it's probably a more skill testing card than the Gateway. I included them both as a kind of a nod to the resource exchange one, though I like that the Coward's End has that added like long-term vision and planning that you're setting up for.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very cool card. It's good to
Cool.
see good players use it very well. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, it's definitely a card that can feel underwhelming when you're not playing well, and just feels absolutely broken when you see it utilized well, correctly.
Yeah. And
So
at first glance too, when you look at it and you compared it to Gateway to Dis, you're like, well, this is just worse, right?
right.
Because like I can't kill all the creatures. I just want to kill all the creatures. But then you like dig into it a little bit and try to take advantage of that. It's pretty cool.
hmm Cool. Well, we are being efficient with our time management, speeding past number three and on to number two. I dig it.
Do we want to have a little interlude?
Ooh, what a moment for an interlude. We need a sound
Break
effect.
things up a little bit.
I was
We
gonna.
need to enlist DataForge Stream. DataForge Stream has some really incredible sound bites and pop-up GIFs on the screen. We'll get there one day. We're leveling up slowly.
I want an open source KeyForge soundboard on a website somewhere that I can hack on and just use whenever. That's the dream.
That
That's the dream.
that is a million UX credit idea right there.
Yeah. Look at all these ducks. What the heck did I use those UX credits for?
So yeah, so this is going to be our new semi-regular segment. We're going to try to talk about every week or every other week or whenever we remember one of those things. It's a segment that we're going to call "You're Playing It Wrong," and this is kind of related to the topic of skill testing cards tonight. So it's kind of a fitting place to introduce the segment. But we're going to talk about cards that people, or maybe JT Russell in particular,
Mm-hmm.
tend to play wrong, and tell them what you're doing wrong with that, how you should be rethinking about how you're playing that card. And a teammate had suggested our first card of the night. Do you want to reveal that for everybody?
We are going to be giving Amberlution the honor of the first card that you or I am playing it wrong with.
Maybe you. Might be
Maybe
you.
at once upon a time. Once upon a time. Uh, I'm almost certainly still playing it wrong because we asked the other folks on our team, what should we use for this segment, the inaugural voyage of the segment, and Not Tonight suggested Amberlution, and we're like, oh yeah, that's a great example. And then I was like, wait a minute, how I don't know. I must still be playing it wrong.
I don't have a ton of experience with Evolution, to be honest. I have one deck that I play with it, and to me, Evolution is a board wipe that can kill my Key Frog, and that's why I like it. But it's got a lot more than that, and at first glance, like the immediate thing that pops out is like, okay, well, if I have any untamed creatures, then I'm not going to play my untamed creatures this turn. I'm just going to play the Evolution first. So that's pretty obvious. There's some obvious parts to it like that. But what else are you considering for how you've played this wrong in the past?
So I think that's kind of my default mode, or at least initial default mode when looking at Amberlution. Like, okay, this is kind of a funky board wipe, um, sort of a stand-in for Unlocked Gateway. It's got the Omega, right? So Amberlution says Omega, and then play, destroy each creature. Each player reveals their hand and puts each creature from their hand into play. Um,
Into play ready.
into play ready, right? So that's important. So your opponent's gonna dump their hand, and then get to go right into their next turn with all those monsters that were there hiding there, ready. And so it certainly can be a last ditch board wipe. Um, and I think there's a big difference between Emberlution decks and decks that have Emberlution. Much like some of the double-sided artifacts, right? Is this an Emberlution deck or an Emberlution or a deck with Emberlution? And the deck that I have pulled up here, Primton Brisk, Alleyway Advisor, is an interesting one. I definitely started out playing it thinking of it as a deck with Amberlution in it, and ended with it thinking of it as an Amberlution deck. And I think it was an easy trap to fall in. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a leeway here because the C is so low, right? It's 8.3 C as rated, and that C rating, that number 8.3, starts with Amberlution coming in at 1.78. So that's kind of like, from Saz's perspective, the top line of board control for this deck. So it's really easy to look at this deck and say, okay, I'm going to be using Amberlution as a primary means, or a primary means of board control. And I actually plotted my first 20 or so games with it. Just as like a very, very simple visual, like green for win, red for loss. And it went like red, 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 green, red, red, green, 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 red, green, red. And then so it was like 5 reds at the beginning and then 5 greens at the end. And it was very like obvious to see the progression of like me turning the corner with this deck. And a big part of turning that corner was Amberlution. And I think, looking back, it feels a little bit obvious, but you have some really interesting tools, right? So you've got Double Stirring Grave, and I went in thinking like, yeah, I really want to assemble these sins. So I've got 3 sins plus the fake sin. What's with the sacro feed having the fixed symbol? You always see your sins decks, and you're like sacro feed, and you're like, gosh darn it, I thought I had more sins. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, I really want to just have greed on the table as much as possible, draw in my deck. But I ended up rethinking how I was playing this deck and using the Stirring Grave to target the Shouldered, of all things. So Shouldered became a really big target for the Stirring Grave. And then on my Amberlution turn, I am really wanting to resurgence a Fandangle or two. So either the Fandangle and another, or Fandangle and something else. And the real reason you want that Shouldered, of course, is for the taunt. So you're really happy to have either Wrath or Shouldered there to come down with the Amberlution, and protect your Fandangle, and with their board very likely being a mix of 3 or fewer creatures, 4 or 5, maybe as many as 4. They really only have 1 or 2 options typically in hand that could potentially be a piece of board control to deal with it. So you don't have to work too hard to set up a situation where you've got a protected Fandangle and start your turn with the full grip, um, maybe even plus whatever your sins with greed are allowing you. So the payoff can be big there, much more so than leaning into the sins with the Stirring Graves. So yeah, pretty cool. But
I like that.
yeah.
I didn't see that at first, but that's a great line to line up the taunts because you're thinking, well, they're going to have creature control on the board ready immediately. So, what can I do about that? And you have a few taunts in here, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you here. Do you ever avoid playing things like the Double Doom or the Tempting Offer? Double Doom, probably not, but Tempting Offer is normally a card you play for bounce and disruption. So you want to bounce back a creature that they're not expected to go back into that house immediately. But if you're trying to set up an evolution, you're basically just letting them have that creature again. Like, do you ever consider that with Tempting Offer here?
uh, it's been a little while since I've played it. I want to say no, though. I want to say I never thought of it, but I
This is
probably should
this is
have.
why you're playing it wrong.
This is why I'm playing it wrong. Yeah. More
That's kind of
notes.
the
I like
opposite
it.
of like the archiving stuff. Like on one hand, you're talking about archiving and preparing yourself for it, but
Mm-hmm.
you also have a few ways in here to kind of like set them up for it as well. Like maybe in the Tempting Offer here, if they have a creature of a house that you think they're about to go back into, you bounce it just so they can't reap it, and then just play it the next turn anyway because they're about to call that house anyway, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
wipe it. So
Yeah. The tempting offer is interesting though. In if you can give them back a creature that from a house where you don't expect them to be returning to, uh, you can be saddling them with an important chain that could turn into like a their own gateway or board wipe that they're drawing into. So yeah, double edged sword. It's really interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Cool. Well, this has
So
been the segment of you're playing it wrong. I don't,
yeah, maybe
yeah.
next week we'll find something that I'm playing wrong.
There you
There's
go.
got to be something, right? I can't beat you on stream, so there's got to be something I'm doing wrong.
We're just gonna have our stream games feed the next week's segment.
Yeah, the card you're playing wrong this week, quick draw, is every single card in your deck that you played on stream. You're doing something wrong there.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
cool. So we will come back to this, like I said, maybe every week, every other week.
Same.
Come up with some different cards that are maybe not as intuitive and straightforward to play. So,
Cool, cool.
and back to the list.
And back to the list. Yeah, so we're at number two. We're at number two.
Yep.
Why don't you give us your number two quick draw?
Yeah. So I got another AOA card here as my
Ooh.
number two,
Oh.
and I have chosen Glimmer for my number two. Obviously, decisions galore with Glimmer. You again, just like with the Igor, your instinct is to take an untamed card, and often that could be the case if it's a Nature's Call or Mimicry, Punctuate Equilibrium. Some really good options, but sometimes you're also trying to set yourself up for a different house or a bigger play. Um, you could you could have a Brig deck, and you want to get back a piece of the Brig combo that you need just when they think that they're beyond it, and then you're setting yourself up to land a Brig the next turn after that. So there's a lot of decisions you can make with the Glimmer, especially if you do have like the Nature's Call or ways to bounce it, because then you're making the same decision a few times, and it's more of a long-term plan for how you're gonna utilize the Glimmer. It's not just a one and done type thing. Song of Spring is another one you can use to put the
Mm-hmm.
Glimmer back and get it back again. And so when you stack these decisions over the course of the game, it's really important to make the right calls on the card you get back. It's such a powerful mechanic, and there's a lot to gain from using this card really well.
Yeah, yeah. Love this card. I don't know. Couldn't agree with more than anything you said. Not sure I have a ton to add. I love seeing Glimmer get used to pull back the non-untamed cards. Yeah, it really shows the planning ahead, especially if it's not even immediately the next card or the next house that you call that card belongs to. But yeah, what a card! Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, very cool card.
Cool. My number two is one that we've talked at length on, and I do have Eaton's Jar on my list at number two. So a double-sided artifact once it is in play, and I put it on my list. This could almost have been a cards are playing wrong contender, but it's on my list because it fits the Yeah, it scratches the itch of cards that require you to have kind of strategic vision for the game. There are definitely times where you play it and there's just an obvious like, well, they've got four Dust Pixies. I'm going to call Dust Pixie, or something like that. But there are also situations where they've got a very diverse list, um, and you play it turn one or two, and kind of need to see how the game is going to play out and what call is going to be most impactful. And I don't think it's always clear. I am thinking in particular, of a match that I played in the last ABR season. It was the Archon Best of Three round, and I was playing against X-Ray Creator, and they were on a very fast deck, and it was a deck that had Dark Amber Vault, Amphora Captura, and like double Kirby, triple Kirby maybe, in it. And in the first game, I lost spectacularly, despite playing turn one jar. The second game, I jarred something completely different and won spectacularly. And the third game was pretty much fair, and jar came kind of in the middle. But in the second game, sorry, I should have said that I also had a very early jar, turn one or two. Um, both games, yeah, I played jar, turn one or two, named different things, and had a wildly different outcome. And the difference was I misjudged how well I was able to draw the game, or how likely I was able to draw the game out to an end game. So in other words, I named a card in game one that was going to be important to their end game if after I've kind of ground them down, if you will. But I never got that point. It kind of they closed the game out before we could get there. And in game two, I named a card that was going to slow their rush, as it were. So kind of help my grind. I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
any sense. Yeah.
yeah. This you're right. Zyger Lighthouse Dock is definitely a deck that likes to extend the game, and so it's an interesting pivot there in game two to do that. I think most people's instinct is to ban the card that they have the most of in their deck, just for a little bit of disruption. Sometimes it's a really good card too, like a Ronnie Wrist Clock, something like that. But you might want to be more targeted than that sometimes and go after something that is like a very specific answer for your deck. Could be more impactful to ban like a single one card as opposed to three of a really good card they have in their deck.
Mm-hmm. Sure, sure. So yeah, to play the jar really effectively beyond kind of the obvious choices, I think it takes some skill to see how the decks are going to match up, and how that tension plays out over the course of the game, and what's going to be most beneficial. Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, number one, we've made it.
we've made it. We've made it. Well, a card that's on my list that I haven't said yet.
I don't think I do.
It is the not double sided autoencoder. Yeah.
All
Uh,
right, that's yeah.
but
I spoke
Team,
to it already, but yeah, I'll let you say your piece on it now.
yeah, I don't think I want to belabor it too much, but every card in your hand from then on is one that you have to weigh its value as a random archive from the top of your deck versus its value as a play. And not only its value as an archive from the top of your deck, but the compounded returns as you archive you know the cards that you get from archives from playing it. So it doesn't just represent one archive; it can represent many archives over the course of the game. So yeah, super cool card, very skill testing. I think it's almost become like a meme to laugh at our ABCD motto: always be card discarding.
Yeah, always be card discarding. Uh, if you're playing auto encoder and you're not discarding like half of your cards in your hand or more, I don't think you're doing it right.
All right,
We have a
there you
whole
go.
episode. We have a whole episode talking about this. I don't remember what number it is, but JT will surely link it in the description.
I'll
Um,
link it. I'll link it up.
it yeah, it's we had Now in Stereo on that week, and he was really like adamant about you just need to discard everything. everything. And at first I was like, I don't know about that. I feel like this is a pretty good creature. I should probably play it. And he's like, no, just discard it. Just pitch it. And it gets to a point where you snowball and you just have like 15 card in your hand, and you can consistently play the good cards at that point, discard the ones that you don't need, and then next turn, same thing. Pull your archive again, play another like 8 to 10 card house, and just do it again, like almost every single turn if you do it right. You're discarding the ones that you don't have value on. I think I see a lot of people play creatures that
Hmm.
they aren't really expecting to use for a few turns. And a ton can happen between then and the time you call that house again. Like it could get destroyed by something else, or you might draw into your own board wipe you want to play. And just the value is just much better to archive something right away than play a creature that you hope you might be able to reap with in 2 turns.
Hmm.
This is definitely a number one. I mean, like this is an excellent choice. I told you beforehand that I kind of omitted these artifacts, just sort of a matter of principle, I guess. I wanted to kind of branch and do something a little bit different, but I 100% agree with your placing it at the top of your list.
Very good. Well, tell us your number one then.
My number one is a bit of a wild card here, I think. My number one is back to Dark Tidings, and I'm going to go with Seneschal Sargassa.
Ooh, okay.
Sargassa is a really interesting knight, 6 power, 2 armor, and when any player raises the tide, a creature they control captures 2. So this is actually even like very impactful in non-Dark Tidings matches because you're really giving your opponent a reason to raise the tide. They can take you off check with it. You can take them off check with it, and you get into situations where you have to think like, I really want the tide, but if I take it and I use it for my benefits, I'm giving my opponent the opportunity to take me off check in some situations. So there's a lot to consider with Sargassa out and raising the tide for yourself. And that's before we even get into potential combos like a Bilge Warden or a Tidal Wave, which you can use to lower the tide. And then if it's your turn, obviously you're lowering the tide. You get to choose which of their creatures gets the amber on it, and you are taking away their opportunity to raise the tide and take you off check. So there's combos with this. There's just lots to consider about where you want that amber to go. If you want to actually take the chains to raise, it really changes, I think, the value of raising because you're giving your opponent extra incentive to raise as well. In a similar way that like some of the double-sided artifacts like Hydra Cataloger work, you're changing the cost of the tide for both players.
Hmm. Hmm. Very cool. It's a good one. I've played enough Whirlpool games featuring Sargasso with you to appreciate the complexity inherent in this
Yeah,
card.
I was trying to avoid like really like leaning on the combos in this list,
Sure.
but yeah, like if you put in a Whirlpool, Sargasso just gets like totally different and like because you're then playing hot potato with multiple creatures and you're constantly sending things back and forth. I have a super fun Whirlpool deck that has two, maybe three Sargassas,
Hmm.
and it's just like it just is total insanity sometimes because you want to raise, but sometimes you want to like raise and then kill your own Sargassa to take away that ability for them. And if you have like two or three of these in play, then it's like even more. Like they can take you off check if you're at like 10. It's nuts. So you just have to be very careful about how you take the tide, even if you're a deck that wants it and they're a deck that doesn't care about it. Really changes the math in either Dark Tidings or non-Dark Tidings matches.
Hmm. Yeah, raise to capture 6 feels like a bargain. Raise to capture 6 feels like a bargain, especially if I'm going to hand it back to you via Whirlpool. This can be fun.
Yeah, that's the nasty part. Um, Data for Stream says that I played the autoencoder in Coat. I never played Coat, so it must have been a different event.
I think probably a Swindle team event,
Could have been a
perhaps.
Swindle event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was a Morai event, and I can't recall the opponent. It may have been someone from ABR. Um, but yeah, I remember that game was streamed. Maybe it was the finals actually, and I just discarded everything. And I remember the commentary was like, I don't know why you're discarding everything, but it worked out because I found everything that I needed, and um, That's how autoencoder works.
Yes, Kagi was what they meant, and it was recent indeed. You're
Oh,
correct, Sock.
interesting.
Yeah, that was probably one against Karen. I want to say.
I think that was against Karen then, yeah.
Hmm.
Which I think it was also, was it streamed then? I think it was
Yep.
also streamed.
Yep.
Um, Over in Swindle Dust Chronicles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, indeed.
So,
Yeah. Cool.
um, yeah. So it's happened a few times. I think it happened in a Swindle team event as well. I remember a similar match. Sloppy Labwork likes to play that autoencoder.
We just like discarding cards, and then we'll take excuses,
Yeah. We like discarding every card we can except for autoencoder.
except for autoencoder.
Although
Yeah,
you do want to discard the autoencoder against Borrow
you
almost
probably
every
do.
time.
You probably do.
I I had now in stereo Borrow one of my autoencoders before, and he had an autoencoder in his deck already.
Yep.
Um, yeah, he played a lot of cards that game, or
Hmm.
rather, he discarded a lot of cards that game
Discard
too.
a lot of cards. I've lived one double autoencoder game, uh, and with Westfall, I've been borrowing a lot of autoencoders recently, so it's been fun.
Yeah,
Hmm.
nice.
Very fun.
So that's the list, and there is an honorable mention that everyone's been waiting around for. It's like the credits scene, like you're sitting and the show's over already, but you're just waiting because this is coming.
Yeah, this is almost worthy of not like an Avengers Endgame credit scene, but more like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's gonna be kind of goofy. So my honorable mention is actually one that I misplay fairly often, and that's why I put it on the list. So I should probably just be saving these for the "You're playing it wrong" segment, but it's on my list. I'm gonna give
We
it.
have a long list of things that we can easily do for us.
Yeah, right. It is also in T. Zager, the Lighthouse Dock. Um, it is a disc creature, and it goes by the name of Picaroon. Picaroon.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
thought you were gonna say Infernus there for a minute.
Infernus definitely deserves some discussion. We'll probably
Yeah,
bring it up at some point down the road, in a similar top N episode. But yeah, I gave Picaroon the nod here, um, and why do I often misplay it? I often misplay it, or don't make full use of it. Um, because it is so versatile. But I think most folks have a default mode when playing it, and that can get you into trouble. So, for example, this deck really wants to have an Ultra Gravitron in play and have it stick around. And Picaroon is really, really good at protecting Ultra Gravitron from things like Fangs of Gizelharth. Um, so you
standardized testing.
standardized testing, right? So be very mindful of things like standardized testing, fans of Gizelheart, Savage Clash, right? Like, do you really want to be stuck with an empty board after Picaroon has no neighbors because Savage Clash was your highest power creature and they played it and you're sad? Not really. When there are the knights, the Opal and I'm
Onyx.
Onyx Knight. Thank you. Um, you can be mindful of whether you're setting it up next to odd or even powered creatures. Infighting makes it a really, really tricky card to set up correctly as well, because you can very often have it certainly kill the thing next to it and then die immediately, and that can be sad too. So be mindful of like where you're placing it then. Uh, I often utilize it in this deck to make good use of the Quintrino Flux. Uh, so I'm often trying to set up my battle line such that I can play the Picaroon maybe off of a Kirby to get an advantageous number, like between the two, summing two neighbors, right? So maybe I want to like make another 5 so that I don't lose any of my 2s and 4s, or I guess that could never happen, but 2s and 3s. Right? So not wanting to have to choose a number that's bad for me, but I can overlap with an opponent, say. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, there is a lot that the humble Picaroon can do, um, and I very often find myself looking at my battle line and being like, wow, I could have really set this up better to take full advantage. Or yeah, they Savage Clash me. I'm like, well, kind of was dumb putting Picaroon next to Gravitron just so I could live the Timmy life and have a really big, really big mutant.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have a Pikaroon in one of my favorite decks, Macrobell, that I play
Mhm.
in KFL. Macrobell is a mass mutation, kind of a board flood deck with three Tirados, um, and its major flaw is that its only creature control is a Kurzap and a standardized testing. That's like pretty much it. And the standardized testing, you really have to try to get as much value out of this as you can. And one way to do that is to make sure that you don't have the biggest creature. And keeping Pikaroon a little bit smaller in that deck would be a very good thing, um, because you want to try to hit some of their bigger creatures that you're otherwise going to have a lot of difficulty handling. So yeah, it's definitely something I need to consider more in Macro Bell to where I place the Pikaroon. Shouldn't just always go for the big boy with it.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's more strategic to get it a little bit smaller, around a 4 or 5 power.
Yeah, and a cool one from Ketzer in the chat here, saying that they will load up Picaroon, maybe Vacuria, and then exile it while it's got some damage, and let it die immediately upon being exiled. So super cool,
Yeah, I love that.
super
Great
cool.
combo.
Yeah, it has notes of
Reminds me of.
Hedroth's Wall and Whirlpool maybe or something, or
I was just gonna say,
Corpulent Collector. Yeah,
Corpulent Collector's one. Photic Raider is another one.
yeah,
Photic Raider can be a 6 power on your side with some Amber on it, and then pass it over, and it dies immediately. Corpulent Collector is a good one. That's my favorite. One of my favorite combos I have in a Whirlpool deck is Corpulent Collector, Hadroth's Wall, and it might have a Larry of the Lake in there as well, and a Whirlpool. So like the thing's got a 9 power, 2 armor, and it immediately captures like 10 Amber, and then end of turn it goes right over, and boom, it's all yours.
nice,
Love it.
very spicy,
Yeah.
very spicy. Cool. Well,
So that's our lists.
it's our
I
list.
hope you guys like lists. I mean, we haven't done lists in a while.
Now listen a while. I gotta be honest. I thought this was gonna be like a 15-minute episode, but here we are. It was
Oh,
some good
over an
stuff.
hour,
There you go. You
and we
know,
still got a game to play.
still got a game to play. So maybe first, I'm gonna remind all the fine folks listening in with us here where they can find all our stuff, and then we'll switch gears. So let's do that. Um, yeah, Bottom of the Beaker is recorded live on Tuesdays at 9:30 Eastern, right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/sloppylabwork. Join us for the fun. You can find archives of our past shows and streams over on YouTube at Sloppy Labwork. And for the very best content, 3,457 times distilled and scraped from the bottom of the beaker. Search for that very phrase in your podcatcher of choice, and you'll find us there. Yeah, got anything to say to the folks getting off on the last
Yeah.
audio stop?
Thank,
Quick draw.
thanks for listening, and stay sloppy out there.
Stay sloppy out there. All right, let's go. We'll play a game. Let's play a game.
All right. So yeah, I was planning on playing a Glimmer deck, and now I'm on the fence. Maybe I'll play a Sargasso deck. You talked about all the fun with Sargasso and Whirlpool, so I don't know. I'm a little split right now. I'm not sure which one I should go with.
What indeed? Well,
And
you
you're just gonna
decide.
play. I assume you're gonna play like a triple Pikaroon deck, right?
I'm on the fence between the Picaroon and this might be my only notable Picaroon deck. Yeah, I chose all really good cards for my list, so that no matter which card I went with, I'd have a banger for for our game at the end.
All right. I'm gonna surprise you with my choice. I'm not gonna
Okay.
let you know if I'm gonna go with the Glimmers or the Sargassos, but I got a game up for you.
Okay, I have to decide on a deck. Ooh, this is a tough one. You just give me on the like how many pepper scale, how spicy is your offering?
It's probably like a mid-range, 3 out of 5 peppers.
3 out of 5 peppers. Okay. Okay. Um, I have a cool jar deck that I don't play very often. Oops, that's not the deck
So here
name.
I am picking my deck with multiples of this card we just spent an entire podcast talking about, and you're like, I'm gonna pick Jar so we don't ever have to see it.
uh, Yeah, just gonna see what other Picaroon decks I've got to choose from. uh, Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with a really good, really fun. Man, yeah, Jar would be not fun. Jar would be not cool.
You can play Jar.
No, no,
It's
no,
fine.
no,
I
no,
can't
no.
beat you anyway.
All right, I've got. You're gonna beat this one. I'm gonna go with the control the weak deck. Um,
I'm gonna get killed.
but it's maybe like one pepper, two peppers, quick draw.
It's just gonna embarrass me more whenever I misplay my glimmers and I lose to a two pepper deck.
Let's see. All right, I've imported at least before, so there's. It's not like it's a freshly imported deck. Um, ooh. Control the weak. You have to choose a card on the Archon card, though, right? All right, I could do my Amberlution deck. Yeah, that's like a four pepper. It's like a 4 or 5 pepper deck, I think. Um, so I like the pepper scale. We should go with that. Maybe that'll be a name for our eventual archetype scale.
I like it. That's
Um,
a good connection there.
yeah, yeah. Two peppers, three control the weeks, two peppers, more peppers, more control the weeks than peppers.
That's unusual. The Hair of Ironhill.
hmm
All right, Coda, old school. I am going with Cunningham, the Merchant of Bounty Corner.
Ooh, that name sounds vaguely familiar.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um.
Ooh, we're hitting a
All
bunch of
right.
things in here. You got Nature's Call was on my maybe list.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Ugh, I don't know if I can roll with this hand.
I'm on the fence about this one. I think.
Ugh,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna throw it back. All right. I think I'm
I'll
glad I
mulligan
did.
that as well.
Okay.
Mulligan that as well.
All right. So start Logos, and we're gonna archive that guy.
All right, so you got a lab work for an archive. Very cool. Um, okay. I'm gonna go into Dis. I'm gonna send you back into Logos. I got so many control the weeks. I'm gonna
Hmm.
showcase the different uses.
Yeah.
So this is an uh,
Yeah.
early tempo play.
This is how you waste a control the week.
This is how you waste a control the week. I got control the weeks to spare. Let me tell you. All right, so Creeping Oblivion's gonna purge your lab work, and then Charette comes down. We'll
All right.
see.
I am not going to take the archives. It's not totally wasted, but it's not bad either. So I get to master the theory. I can archive a card. I think we're going to go with that one. And I'm going to poke that charrette a little bit.
Ooh, poked indeed. Hmm. Feels bad, man.
To be poked.
Feels bad. Yeah. This Arise is also just terrible. So I'm going to go back into disc, take a really bad turn here. Just
Control the week again.
discard this Rise, Reap, and that's it. Oof.
That is a bad turn. You're right.
Yeah.
All
A
right.
little, a
Well,
little greedy. A little greedy. Some greedy hand shaping.
I'll go untamed. Let's persistence hunting,
Mm-hmm.
and let's drop some creatures.
Those are things. Cool. All right. We're going to Mars here. Play a soft landing. Play a mother gun ready.
That's not something you see every day.
No.
I actually don't think I knew soft landing worked in artifacts.
Yeah, pretty cool. I will reveal a mothership support and shoot your. What am I going to shoot here? Guess it doesn't matter a ton. We'll shoot the mongrel and get an amber from this mothership support. Okay, there we go.
All right. I think we're going to be doing a little bit more poking over here.
Why you gotta do that?
Um, don't want the archive. Let's play a Phyla with skirmish.
Seems good.
And there's the poke you've been waiting for.
Okay, so this is cool. I'm very tempted to kind of burst here. Let's see, burst to 8. Burst to 8. You've got graft and doorstep in this deck. You did just play logos, but you've got those 2 archives. I'm willing to bet lots that one of them is either graft or doorstep. So, good sir, I say, let us see it. Let us see it.
Okay. Cleansing Wave.
Cleansing Wave, take hostages, and protect the weak on my charrette. Leaves me at 8.
Okay.
I'm really hoping it's a doorstep and not the graft. We'll see.
8's not quite enough.
Okay. A bluff if I ever heard one. What a bluff.
Not going to take the archives.
Okay.
Let's play a Chow with deploy right next to the Phyla to get a draw in there. And let's play an Obeyed.
Ooh. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yowza. Still thinking you've got either that doorstep or graft. Do I go to 9? Or do I leave this Obeyed and try and forge with my amber safe there? That is a tough call. No, I think I still want to draw it out. So let us not reap, but we will play a gateway here.
Yep. I was just thinking, I wish I could have used my board at all, but could not.
Yeah, and that was the big reason I was hoping it was doorstep and not graft. Graft would have given you some reaps as well as my amber. Doorstep would have been nice to see doorstep and the board to go into the gateway.
All right, so we're going to go into Untamed here. Start with that Glimmer.
Cool.
This is where the fun begins. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go out of house, though. I think I want to stick with Untamed.
Some cool targets for sure.
Yeah, some not bad targets. And I drew out the Gateway. So you don't have a Spirit's Way. You do have a couple Phosphorus Stars, which actually are probably going to get you some pretty good value here. So let's get back the mongrel, and then let's regrowth on the Panpaca
Oh, cool.
and play them out. And let's Nature's Call.
Ooh, very nice. There's the nature's call. The fun begins.
Yep.
Okay, a red key.
So you got
Red
a
key.
key. I got check for you.
No, not stopping the check. Hmm. Hmm. Oof. Interesting. Let's see what we got coming up here. Yeah, the chat saying interesting to not return the glimmer. Um,
Hmm.
I am almost assuming that means we've got another glimmer ready to go.
What could it mean?
What could it mean? But do I chip away and try and smash this glimmer on board, and then force you into only two nature's call potentials? Oof, tricky. Well, I'm gonna go Sanctum. I'm gonna play this Sigil of Brotherhood. I'm gonna play Protectrix and Inspiration to fight into the mongrel, and not least of which because it's gonna kill the Protectrix and not
Mm-hmm.
let you lock it out.
Yep. All right. So let's just, in that case, go to Logos here.
Seems legit.
Just pitch the Death Quark,
Ooh, always play the Death Quark.
play Librarian, and Titan Mechanic.
Dang, that's cool.
Now I get to Archive. I like it. Good decision here.
Hmm.
Go that one.
Okay, interesting choices now. Now we've got another glimmer coming. Got the nature's call still there. I think I'm going Mars. Gonna use this mother gun. Show you three creatures to kill the Pampaka. And yeah,
Didn't
I'm
like
gonna
the Panpaca anyway.
play out these Martians and draw.
Okay. All right. So you just got rid of your chains. You're at 3. Yeah, I. Hmm. I think I like the Untamed here.
Okay, so let's see glimmer number 2.
Did I just get disconnected?
You did, but it looks like you're back, or maybe not.
This might take a second. I tried to choose the house and it wouldn't let me, and I was like, yeah, that's a sign that I am disconnected.
So let's see. You've
There we
not
go.
played the punk.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so let's take the archives. Let's glimmer,
Plays the glimmer. Very cool.
and we're going to get the nature's call back.
Sensible.
And we are going to play it. Going to
Hmm.
reap, and I'm going to make you pitch those Mars creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping the punk wouldn't connect there, but that's really strong. Really strong. Cool.
And I get to archive. That's not bad either.
Okay. Very nice. So I'm going to go uh, Sanctum here. Purge this Titan. Misplay there.
Uh-oh.
Oof.
Getting
Should
sloppy over there,
I
huh?
should I play it? I guess I'll play it now. I wasn't planning to play this Sergeant Ezekiel, but I guess a replay is not terrible. I should have played the Protect the Weak on the Titan before purging it, and then I would have probably discarded Ezekiel. Um, but here we are.
Okay, so you got 2 Control the Weaks left.
Mm-hmm.
Could be in your deck, though. Probably got, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got 2 more Sanctum creatures somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think I am going to let you have your pick with the Control the Weak here.
Oh my.
Dangerous.
Dangerous indeed. Go Sanctum. Cool. Mm-hmm. Take hostages with Barrister Joy out. Okay.
Mm. If you go to Dis, don't have a way to take me off check. Which Dis do you have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just 2 Control the Weak, so I don't think you're going to Dis. So I'm going to actually check you here with a Doorstep and a Reap.
Ooh, interesting. So this is super interesting. You have an empty draw pile.
Mm-hmm. So you got full info.
Full info, and
Time to test your skill.
you're not going below 6 if you want to keep your Glimmer target or your Glimlock viable, uh, unless you let yourself reshuffle with Glimmer and Nature's Call. Interesting. So you've got 6 Untamed in discard, 2 on board. So you got 4 in hand. You've Mimicry, Fang House, Glimmer. Did I miss one?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, hand of 5, 2 in archives. Okay. We've seen persistence hunting. Yes. There's a nature's call. Jaga, is there another?
Did you miss the PE in the discard?
I see the PE. Wait, one, two, three. Oh, sorry, 7. Okay, cool. So they're accounted for. Hmm.
Yeah, just trying to make it easier on you.
I do get
I can
sloppy.
I can only watch you miscount something so many times in a row before I just have to tell you the answer.
Yeah, yeah. All right, interesting. And Spirit's Way, doubt we're seeing that played. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pickle for you here because if I counted correctly, after taunting you for not being able to count, your only dis left is to control the weak, and so you're not likely to go into dis here.
Not likely going to this year. I am considering it though. I'll get my. Oh, or should I? No, this is actually pretty cool. I am gonna go dis here. Um, we'll see how this plays out. So I'm gonna go dis. I'm gonna control the weak U back into Sanctum. I'm going to use the bauble for Ezekiel to fight the glimmer over here. And pass the turn.
All right, so you didn't check me though,
Nope.
so my guess is you either just wanted me to shuffle or you want to send me back into Sanctum maybe.
Yeah, no, I just wanted you to shuffle. I
Hmm.
was hoping the librarian would force a redraw. So that was, yeah, entirely to force a reshuffle. And we'll see if it was worth it. I'm not sure. So Sanctum, move some dudes, and end the turn.
That's big for me that you didn't check again. It gives me a
Mm.
chance to go to Untamed here.
Yeah, and I did flip my deck, so at least blanking the mimicry
Hmm.
a little bit.
Yep, that's very good. And you've got to control the weak. Let's play down a Fang House.
Mm-hmm.
It's Nature's Call those guys.
Ooh, that's good.
And a Regrowth. And a Reap. And can't quite check you.
Hmm. Yeah, I should have maybe just gone back into dis, play the last control of the week, reshuffled it, and then banked a key.
Checked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, may not have been a bad play. Now I really don't want to put a control of the week in discard with mimicry hanging out. Awkward.
Well, you'd
Awkward.
have to just force me away from it, obviously.
All right, let's go Mars. Um, start with this battle fleet.
Oh, nice.
Draw 4. Cool. Hmm. Okay, we'll use the mother gun. Um, am I playing all of these? I think so. Hmm. But it's awkward. Yeah, we'll just reveal a lot. Okay, librarian gets the axe.
He was good while it lasted.
Mm-hmm. Phosphorus stars. Are they suspect? Should have maybe just killed the Joya. I'll be close. But yeah, use the stars. Um, have my next creature or artifact come into play ready. It'll be this Plague Master. Yeah, hit the Joya. Oh, I can only fight, right? Yeah. Glimmer, hit the Joya again. Play that. Um, yeah, I should have maybe killed the Joya, but it was uh,
Yeah.
tempting.
And so you. Okay, so you could have.
I would have had to do 5 to the Joya, lived it at 4, and then fight with the Plague Master into the Glimmer and hit it with the last 3 there. Mothership Support
Interesting.
could have done it too, but yeah.
I think that's going to cost you, oddly, because you damaged the Joya just enough for
Mm.
the Healing Blast.
Oh, interesting.
Healing Blast is not something that like people think of, I think, when looking at lists. So I will forgive you for that one. Um, so this seems like it should be an easy call for me here. Obviously, opening myself up to a control of the weak, but I think I'm going to be above that anyway. No, actually, I'm not going to be above the charrette. So if you read through the charrette, I think you can keep me off and make this interesting. But we're going to doorstep first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're going to healing blast. So that puts me to
Yep.
8. And then we're going to discard the harder they come. And I think I'm going to keep the Joya on the board. Um, so I will discard the Spirit's Way
Cool. 8 I
and check at
cannot
8.
deal with. Cannot deal with 8, so we'll play out a couple bulwarks. Take hostages. And fight capture 1. That'll do it. That'll do it.
All right.
GG. Good game well played.
GG. Good game. Yeah, the I don't know about my Glimmer choices. I think they were okay. I did have Glimmers in hand. Um, whenever the chat mentioned when you mentioned the chat said something about you must have another Glimmer. I did have another
Mm-hmm.
Glimmer. Sometimes when I play this deck, I often just like bank on drawing another one too. I did hold one that turn though. Um, didn't get it, didn't get to play the Mimicry, but I really love the option with Glimmer and getting back Nature's Call or Mimicry or PE. Like those are three I think of the best options you have with Glimmer, and this
Mm-hmm.
deck's got all three of them, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And love seeing the mimicry force me out of being able to play control a week at the end. Um, yeah, I definitely could have played better to either finish off the Joya or not put it into a healing blast range. Oops. But
Yeah,
no.
like I said, no one really like thinks about Healing Blast when they look at lists. It's kind of an unusual, not very commonly seen card.
Yeah, I will. I will excuse myself a little in that. I don't think my actually. What does my deck have for Amber Control? I think it is quite
It's very little.
low. Quite low.
Yeah, there's a charrette, and there is the take hostages,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that is all that I'm seeing. Mind Warper.
Yep. Mine Warper, which may come in ready.
Yeah,
But yeah, precious little.
yeah.
Precious little.
It was a good control of the week choice though to make me shuffle. I did definitely feel like the disruption of not being able to get back the PE because I was hoping to just get back the PE and discard your control of the weeks
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't go into dis that turn. So I think that was actually a decent play. Um, this deck Cunningham is hard for the control of the weeks because I have a little bit of redundancy between Sanctum and Logos. They each have some scaling amber control. They each
Mm-hmm.
have the some creature control with a bouncing Death Quark and a Spirit's Way, and then the Untamed is the obvious choice, but the Mimicry is like a huge wild card in there. So unless it's timed right, then the Mimicry can also act as a lot of protection as well.
Yeah, and the Glimmerlock was really what I was trying to get out of. So forcing you into a turn of bounce my dudes, replay Glimmer, you know,
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
not winning. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I have two Glimmers in hand at the moment, um,
Mm-hmm.
so they were going to be around for a while.
Welp, welp, nicely done. Well played
Yeah, good
indeed.
game.
Ooh,
That
ooh,
was
ooh,
a
ooh.
fun one. This is a fairly new deck that I got pretty recently. I believe I got it from Ember Meaties actually,
Oh, cool.
in a trade. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Cunningham, the Merchant of Bounty Corner. Let's see. What does we know how many peppers it is? Okay, okay. 74 on the old SAS scale, not the pepper scale.
Yeah, Pepper Scale was about three. I said. I don't know how you feel about that.
Ooh, really interesting question from Zoc from Data Forge stream here. Whether
Hmm.
it would have been worth holding Glimmer or whether it would have been holding Creeping Oblivion to hit the Glimmer targets. Almost
Yeah,
probably would have been. Yeah.
I immediately thought when you played it that I was happy that you played it early.
Mm-hmm.
I was very happy that that was gone because that's definitely something that's um, it really hits the Glimmer hard for sure.
Yeah. I honestly should have. I don't have to. I'll have to rewatch to see if not. But I embarrass. I have to embarrass to admit. I think I missed the Nature's Call in the list initially. Or no, maybe not. I think I noticed the Nature's Call, but for some reason it didn't click. The Glimmerlock didn't click. But even still, with triple Glimmer, um,
Sneak
creeping
preview for
up.
next week's "You're Playing This Wrong" segment. It's the Archon card.
It's the Archon card. Yeah, no, no. Creeping Oblivion should have been a hold there, 100%. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think you just
totally.
played the Charette and the Creeping Oblivion that turn, or was there a Control of the Week in there as well?
It was a, there was a really awkward turn that was discarding Rise and Reaping with Charette.
Hmm.
Might have been, yeah, the turn before. Um, that was just Charette and Creeping Oblivion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, the value of Creeping Oblivion there, I guess, makes that awkward turn a little bit more awkward.
yeah, totally. I forget why I was. I think I had a bunch of not very good Mars or some not very good Mars, but it was inclusive of soft landing, no creatures, uh, and the Mother Gun. And I wanted to get either a little bit more value from the Mother Gun or get another Sanctum thing to have the equally awkward Sanguine turn not be so awkward.
Hmm. Yeah,
But yeah, it wasn't a great mulligan, but it was a really bad play for the Creeping Oblivion for sure. Yeah, totally.
it was a fun one.
Fun one. Cool. Little science there. I like it. I'll be holding that creeping oblivion next time. Infernus Light. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
As it were.
I don't think I used the Glimmer to take anything outside of Untamed, so um, situation did not call for it. I really got my doorstep and graft second half of the deck, but I managed to archive them both. I'm not mad about not getting them earlier, like before your first key. It was a good threat, like we talked about earlier. And
Hmm.
if I had got them earlier, though, I could have glimmered them. But obviously, that's a one-turn delay and telegraphs it. But it's definitely an option in here.
Yeah. So your first archive was Nature's Call off that
Uh,
lab work, or one of the glimmers maybe.
no. Trying to think. I think it was a smite. I
Oh.
had, I think, four untamed cards, three untamed cards in hand, and the smite, and I just wanted to get some efficiency and put that smite away.
Hmm.
Um, and then I drew the Nature's Call a bit after that, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, I thought you
Yeah,
had
the Master
played.
the Theory on turn two after you control the weak me, I archived, I want to say something untamed that I didn't need right away.
Okay, that makes sense because I think you took archive. I think you took your archives on an untamed turn when you played out the glimmer and nature's call the first time.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So it might have been a Glimmer, it might have been a Nature's Call.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, right on. Fun game.
All right, yeah, good game.
Cool.
Thanks to
So
everybody for watching, sticking around for the game.
yeah, right on, right on. Thanks, peeps. I guess we'll sign off here. It was a lot of fun. Thanks y'all for hanging out with us, and yeah, we'll see you around the sloppy lab. Later, peeps.